Okay, welcome back to part 4, guys. So I'm just getting my last couple of ducts lined up. We need to double check piston skirt clearance. You know, everything when you slide it in the barrel, it all appears to be fine, but I just want to know exactly what I'm working with. We know the cylinders are fine. We know we've basically got no ovality or taper in them. Go and watch part 1 if you haven't already. 63946. Okay. $63,941 on that, a couple of tenths different. 63,941. I get the bore gauge and let's measure the cylinders now they've been honed. Honing them doesn't remove any material. I talked about this loads in part 1. Go and watch that. But it's a surface finish that we're getting with a bore hone. A bore hone isn't designed to remove material. It's just to give you a nice plateaued finish on the cylinder wall. Talked about it in part 1. Let me measure those, see what the clearances are. Then we'll put the bearings on the crank and then we can actually get on with putting it together. We'll quickly measure the cylinders. Let's put it on minimum sweep. Cylinder 1. $64,009. So what we do is we'll do three, just take the measurement 3 times, just 64,010. Just make sure it's a repeatable measurement and you haven't cocked it up. 64,010, let's call that 64,010. 64,010. And then cylinder 2, 64,005. $64,003. You might be thinking, why is there a variation, Jim, in those measurements? 64,002. These are microns. Remember, there's 25 microns in 1/1000th of an inch. So sorry, I fucking mix up my metric and imperial all the time, don't I? Just to add confusion. Let's call that 64,002. So it's tiny measurements. And you're going to see, you know, depending on the temperature of the room you're fucking measuring the cylinders in, you're going to see differences in measurement. That's why, like real fucking engine shops, if you're building an F1 engine or something, you have a climate controlled building environment, so you've got a baseline for the temperature of all the things you're measuring. It's fucking bonkers, the lengths they go to building those sort of engines. Right, let me do some maths quickly. I need a calculator. I can't, my brain won't function properly. So let's assume, actually what we want to do is we want the largest piston in the largest bore, don't we? So number 1 is the largest bore, that's the largest piston. So let's go that way round. Yeah, that's right. We're talking tiny amounts, right? So it's not going to make a huge difference, but there is a slight difference in the pistons and there is a slight difference in the cylinders. So mixy matchy. Okay, so if we've got 63.946, that one, minus 64,010, we get 64 microns, which, I just look back at the spec, is absolutely fucking dead nuts on. We were shooting for 65 microns, weren't we? I think in part 1, basically 2.5 thou. There's 50 thou in a... 50 thou in a... Fucking hell, 50 micro... Holy fucking smoke, Jim. there's 25 microns in a thou. So 50 microns would be 2 thou. It's absolutely fucking dead nuts on that one. And then let's just do the maths on the other one. 63941 minus 64002. 61 microns. Okay, fucking hell, that's a win. That's absolutely on the fucking money. Okay, that takes care of that little piggy. Got to put some rings on these. Do you want to see that? Do we really want to do that? Oh, let's just do... You know this already, right? Did I talk about this? Piston ring end gap, right? On a 2-stroke. Now, what you find is... See how the ring is... Is this going to fucking focus? See how there's this weird little cutaway in the end of the ring? That's designed to fit around. There's a little peg in the piston lock. That's to stop the piston ring from turning. Because obviously in a 2-stroke, you've got ports in the cylinder wall. And if the ring, the end of the ring went anywhere near one of the ports, it would get snagged and it would all be over. Let's put it that way. It's often... Am I getting into this? Yeah, why not? Fuck it. A lot of issues with 2-strokes when the engines blow up is the peg that holds the piston ring gets loose, either gets pushed into the piston or fucking falls out, and it allows the ring to turn. Back in the day, do you remember the Kawasaki KR1s and KR1Ss? I can't remember. I think it was the KR1S had an issue. There was a recall, if I recall. A recall, if I recall. I was working for a Kawasaki dealer. I was, you know, young, dumb and full of cum back then. I was 17 years old, 16 years old. The KR1S was a new thing, and they were blowing up left, right and centre, and it was because the piston ring locating peg in the piston, they were getting pushed in. There was a manufacturing problem, and the peg would push in and the ring would turn and the ring would snag in one of the ports, and it was all over. So they did a lot of rebuilding of those KR1S engines back then. Yeah, what was I doing? Oh, I was just showing you how to do your ring end gap. You know this, I'm sure you do. You just put the ring in like so, and you square it up with a piston like that, and then you technically you get a feeler gauge and you fucking measure, but you don't. You just fucking eyeball it and you go, yeah, that's not too tight. Basically, you can't add material, can you? I don't know what that looks like to me. That looks like 10 thou, 15 thou, whatever it is. It's not so tight that it's ever gonna cause an issue. That's as much as you need to check with a 2-stroke. If you want to get fucking anal and do it with a feeler gauge, knock yourself out. But you're interested in whether you don't want something to have gone wrong with the manufacturing, and you know it to be obviously too tight, because then you're going to get into problems. I hope that makes sense. Right, I'm going to get the crankshaft out of the freezer and get my bearings warmed up, and let's do that. And another thing, you know I'm never finished when I say I am. In case you were wondering, the piston rings are quite different. So there's clearly a top and a bottom to them, like this way or this way. The writing always faces upwards on a piston ring, but it can only go one way because of the little cutout for the peg in the piston. And then, which is top, which is bottom, there's quite a difference in thickness. You can't really get it wrong. So the thick one is the bottom ring and the thin one is the top ring. And then for putting them on, people like to feed them on with a feeler gauge. I just like to do it like that. Just do it by hand. Don't be scared. It's not like the olden days. Some of the old pistons, fucking hell, I've talked about this in the past, I'm sure I have. The piston rings were like they were made of glass. They were cast, and you had to, there was just enough flex in them to get them onto the piston. If you stretched them even slightly past that, they'd fucking snap. So you had to feed them on with a feeler gauge just to, anyway, there you go, and you can see when that closes up, it closes up around that peg, and those pegs are positioned so the end of the ring passes down on the only bit of the cylinder where there isn't any port, so it can't get snagged up. Okay, rings on that one, and then we will get the crank out. Well, let's heat the bearings up. I'll put the bearings in the oven. Fucking hell, trap my glove, that's not a good idea. I'll heat the bearings up. Let's get the crank out of the freezer, and let's see if we can get those bearings on without any drama. Okay, coolio. Right, bearings on the crank. Obviously, hot bearing, cold crankshaft. You don't get a great deal of time because everything is normalizing. So I just need to understand in my brain on the crankcase over here. So on the clutch side, the bearing with the circlip groove in it, circlip groove to the outside, and then on the flywheel side there isn't a circlip groove, but there is a pin which goes to the outside. Right, let's get the crank out the freezer. The bearings are in the oven, they're at 130 degrees, don't really want to get them any hotter than that. Hopefully this will go to plan. Right, okay, I had my freezer on boost, minus 23 apparently. Fucking hell, it is cold, it's hurting my hands. So let's do clutch side first. Fucking hell, that is cold burning me. Let's put you in there like that. Fucking hell, that's cold. What does my thermal imaging camera say out of interest? Less than minus 10. It only goes down to minus 10. Okay, right, let's get a bearing. I think I'm going to need a glove, aren't I? Let's get a little tappy ready too. So theoretically it's not going to need a tappy, but I wouldn't want it to get stuck and me not be able to. Right, okay, so we need the one with the circlip groove. What does that say? 90 something at its hottest point. Okay. Circlip groove to the inside. Fucking marvellous. I love it. And it will immediately get stuck because of the transfer of heat. Right. Fucking hell, look at the frost forming on that. Right, let's do the other end. So the other bearing, the pin, goes to the outside. So that little peg to the outside. Don't get fucking stuck, thank you. Oh, that makes me happy. Let's look at the... That's a cool picture. You can see the bearing sucking, or rather the crank sucking the heat out of the bearing. Let's let that get back to normal. Start assembly. Happy days. I'm not even sure what just fucking happened. Did you notice what I did? I put the bearing on the wrong way fucking round. How did I do that? I was in such a fucking rush. Anyway, luckily I spotted it and I fucking pulled it off really quick with this bearing puller and it came off easy. I'm gonna have to put this back in the freezer now. It's still cold, but not cold enough. Half an hour back in the freezer. Bearings back in the oven. What an absolute tool I am doing that. I can see what I did. I said circlip groove to the inside, didn't I? What I did is I eyeballed that quickly because I was rushing. That's where the crank seal sits. You know what I mean? Anyway, easy mistake to make. not. There's plenty to be getting on with while we're waiting for that bearing to heat up and the crankshaft to cool back down again. Let's start assembling the bits back into the crankcases. So I've got the selector drum, selector forks, got that little indexing jobby for here, neutral switch that side, oil seal to go in there. Yeah, let's get that back to a point where it once was. So we're going to need, off this bench, drum, 3 forks, 2 shafts, two little circlips, that little noggin. Remember I talked about getting another tab washer for this little posty thing? I can't get one quick enough. So a word on tab washers, I think I said this last time. You shouldn't really reuse a tab washer because obviously you're bending it, aren't you? And they'll work harden and get brittle and snap off, and you don't want a snappy off tab washer inside your engine. In reality, you get away with it once. I've never had one cause a problem in my entire life reusing one, but if you were to reuse them a couple of times, I think it wouldn't be wise, let's put it that way. I'll also thread lock that pin in. What else am I going to need from there? I think that'll do for now. Let's get some assembly lube and put some lube in that bearing like that. Little bit of lube on there. I'll slide you in there like that. Sort of a view have you got from there? Not a very good one. I'm not sure, is that any better? Might be. I mean, do you want to see this? I don't know how interesting it is. It literally, it's Meccano, isn't it? So that goes in there. There should be a little plate thingy-mabob, shouldn't there? For there, with 2 screws. Yeah, so we've got... Sorry guys, stand by. It's in a slightly separate pile. Got that, and it's 3 screws. Got that spring, that little indexy wheel. The bolt for that, and then that plate with these 2. That plate is the little locate thing, doesn't it? Which keeps that in position. Okay. Out of shot, no doubt. Yes, of course it fucking is. I can't get the right camera angle. We go up a bit. There we go. So I need JAS, this is number 3, and some thread lock. You go in there like that. And no, I haven't got to put the forks in first before you fucking say that out loud to yourself. Click. Click. In case you were wondering, my elbow said 12 foot-pound. Okay, so left hand. I marked them, didn't I? Because I was thinking of my future self. Left hand there, and then one of them's got, you remember, red dot, no dot. So left hand. Oh, hang on, that's fucking right hand, you bell end. That's the front. So that's that one. Get you in the groove. That's the left hand. And then I need to get the circlip. How the fuck did I get the circlip on? Word on circlips too. I mean, there's a very fucking strong argument, isn't there, to use new circlips, right? But I'm not, because it's fine. That's my only explanation for you. Let me get a pair of... Do I need some pliers, or can I use that shaft to push it down? Click. Thank you. Yeah, there's places I would definitely use new circlips, and they're called for if you look at the service procedure. Gearbox clusters, for example, circlips on gearbox shafts that hold gearbox clusters together, absolutely one-time use. But something like that, it's fine to reuse. Next one, front. Oh, you absolute fucking tool. What's wrong with me today? That plate holds that fucking pin in. What is wrong with me? It's what happens when you're not super familiar with something. Why aren't you using a workshop manual, I hear you say? Come on now, don't be silly. I do refer to the workshop manual, obviously, for torque settings and things, but, you know, and maybe like positions of dowels. How many dowels are there? Just make sure you're not missing things. But generally, no, I'm not looking at a workshop manual. Now I used that shaft to push that circlip in, didn't I? What can I use? Let's use the handle off that ratchet. Thank you. Okay. What we need to do is get that in the neutral position, probably, which is where those holes are spaced in such a way. Is that even in shot? Those holes are spaced in such a way that that will only go in one position, which is like that, which means neutral is all the way over there. Oh, what have I done? Have I might have dropped a bollock actually here. I might not be able to rotate all that way. Oh, I'm making a cat's ass of this, boys, aren't I? Boys and girl. Oh dear me. Come on now, that must be neutral back there. All the way, please. Oh, I see what's happened. I'm the wrong side of the track in the selector drum with the fork. You know what I need to do? I need to fucking go back to bed and get up again and just start back at the fucking beginning is what I need to do. Silly boy. I need that moving. Pliers. I'm not going to fucking bore you with it. You get the idea. I'll see you in a minute when it's working. Right, let's start again. Pretend none of that happened. And ignore that thread lock on those screws there. That's not there. In fact, they're not even in shot, are they? Look. Down a bit. Down a bit, not out a bit. It won't go down a bit. Let's go like that. Yeah, ignore that thread lock. So, when you're assembling a gearbox and you put the selector drum in, make sure you put it in the roughly in the neutral position before you put, and we know what the neutral position is because we've got the neutral switch here, which goes like that. Okay, so that's the little neutral contact, so we get the selector drum contact somewhere near close. Yeah, so do as I say, not as I do. Get the selector drum somewhere near in the neutral position before you start assembling. Left hand, right hand, that one. The shaft without the paint on, with the circlip groove in first, like that. Left hand, hand in shot so you can't fucking see anything. Can I zoom you in a bit? Is that possible? Does that help? Probably not. Yeah, so that's that. Circlip. And that shaft out ever so slightly. Like that. What have I done with the circlips? Where are the circlips? There they are. If I turn it that way, you might be able to see a bit better. Help me push that circlip down. Look at how they tight those circlips. They can definitely be reused. Right, next one. Front. Do you understand where I went wrong? The track, see how the track sort of comes to an end? The little pin on the selector fork runs in that track, and so with this one I had, see how it's on the end of the track this side? I basically, yeah, it was the wrong side of the track in relation to the position the other forks were in, so the selector drum wouldn't turn. So yeah, get your selector drum roughly in the neutral position before you put it together. Thank you. Okay, that feels a bit better. Let's get this back in position so the selector drum is in the right place. Like that. A little bit more thread lock on my screws. Try again. The angle of the dangle's wrong now. I can't use my body to hold it. Click. I don't think it requires sound effects, does it? Click. Okay. Now then, second time lucky. Yeah, that's better. Feels like it wants to rotate now without binding up. Okay, perfecto. Right, that's that. So, in here, we've got this little jobby what's it, which is the retainer for fucking, that's not even in shot. This little tab washery thing. So it holds the, you can see the mark from the shaft on it, look. So that goes on there, and then this is the pin for the kickstart spring. So thread lock on that. A little bit excessive, Jim. She'll be right. What size was that? 17, I think it was. 17, yes it was. I'm going to lay it down flat like that. Just move these tools out of the way. And get you a decent bit of torquage. Click. Like that. So that's holding that shaft in, and then I need my pliers pliers. Spin that tab washer up. Like that. I agree, a new one would have been better, but I can't get one. They're back ordered, and I don't want to wait fucking weeks for it to turn up, so that is absolutely fine. I've got no concerns over that coming off there. Okay, to the side, neutral switch, just a little bit of, just a wee bit of slime on that O-ring. Like that. Oh, that O-ring's new, by the way, in case you were wondering. I didn't actually, I don't even know whether there's one in the gasket set. There might be. Don't think there is. Anyway, that O-ring came out of an O-ring assortment I've got. Don't really seem to be any. Oh, there's an O-ring there. Is that it, maybe? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a new O-ring. No thread lock, just in they go, and don't over tighten them. Well, it's too late now, they've already been over tightened because the plastic's cracked. But they don't need to be fucking screaming tight, just nipped. Okay, while we're over this side, oil seal for there. Which one is it? Looks like it's that one, isn't it? Okay. Let's definitely not that one, because that's got a smaller, that's that one for the drive for the oil pump, isn't it? I was wondering what that was. Okay, a little bit of slime on it. More often than not, sounds crazy, but you can push them in with your fingers. Like that. No oil pressure there at all, it's just there, so no retaining plate. Some bikes will have, and I don't think it's the case with this, I can't remember, but the shaft that slides through. So the shaft goes, I'm not putting it in yet, but the gear change shaft goes through from that side, pops out here, and then often there'll be a little washer and a circlip as a retention for that seal on this. There isn't. On the other side we've got this, which can be a bit of a, not tricky, but can be a bit of a mare to put in sometimes, this little indexing wheel for the selector drum. So neutral, okay, how to tell you, show you, I don't know whether you can see this, C, I have to get this, figure this into the right place. Stand by. Is it going to come out on camera? See this indexing wheel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gears, so that's the big indent, and then see the little one there, that's neutral in between first and second. So we know that that is neutral, that wheel will rest in there. Let's put it to first gear. There's slightly less pressure on the spring, so what you can do, I sort of get it half rested in, and is that a good shot? Make sure that's down there in focus. So this retaining bolt for it has this little shoulder here, which, let me get this out of there, that's the sort of pivot point. This inner lip of this shoulder bottoms out on the casing, and this is free to move on the bolt. So what you do is, because the spring's really fucking strong, get that hooked in, and it's not like I'm the fucking expert on RD350LCs. Like I was saying either earlier in this video or in one of the other parts, this fucking design is like the same. If you took a modern motorbike engine apart, it would be the same. So the sort of techniques you use for assemblage is, they're all the fucking same. So you get that, fucking hell's a bit excessive with the thread lock there. You get that basically just resting in the right place, and you start this bolt off. Where's the 10mm span? 10mm bar. So you start it, try and get that shoulder on that bolt into the beginning of the, am I making any, I haven't got the right words today, you know what I mean. And then when it's engaged in here, you push that onto the selector, onto the indexing wheel, and then do that up like that, and then you haven't got to fight with a spring. See what I mean? And then we can go back to, if we can get the selector forks to move in the right place, go back into neutral, so that's neutral, which is the position it wants to be in when you assemble. I need a 10mm socket so I can fucking torque to that bolt. Click. Not that tight, just nipped. Okay. What have I forgotten? The selector shaft thing can go in later, can't it? Oil seals in. I think that's that crankcase together enough. Now what was it on the other one? It was, there wasn't as much, was there? there's just this mechanism for the rev counter. Right, what we're going to need, fucking hell, there's like a million parts. Can you see? Shaft, little retaining plate, washer, pin, gear, some circlips, 2 screws, that little jobby, and that little jobby. Flipping heck, I might have to watch my own video back to figure out how it goes together. Let's get you a slightly better camera angle than that. You know, I said that in jest, but I'm actually half serious. I think I might need to watch myself back. I know that this came out last, so let's put this in first, eh? Lube me up. Okay, drop me down in there. And there wasn't a... Oh, I just noticed something. Look at that. In the middle of there, that's the square drive for the rev counter cable. Of course it is. So it was just that, wasn't it? And with no shim or anything. And then this, which I've also put a new O-ring on, which hasn't come in the kit as far as I can tell. Like that. And then that bolt, which I'm not going to thread lock. It's MLT bar. Nip. Okay. And then, yeah, that's nice and spinny. Now on this shaft, obviously there's the drive side of it, which is that, the pin, the washer and the circlip, I assume. Fucking hell, I'm going to have to go check. I am actually going to have to go and check. Was it just 2 circlips on there, one each side of the gear? Which is those ones. It's time I had a brew anyway. And actually, when I go in to make a brew, let me bring the crankshaft back out and let's get that bearing back on the crank. And then we'll carry on with this. Hot cup of tea and a fucking very cold crankshaft. Which end? Like burning cold. Shall I do a... Was it... What was that movie when they licked that... they were on that chairlift and they licked the fucking thing and their tongue stuck to it. Could have a viral video on my hands. Right, let's get the bearing, which is in the oven. Let's not fuck this up a second time. So the circlip groove to the outside, Jim, not the inside. Thank you. Right, let's just leave you be there. Let's carry on with the rev counter drive. This drive is actually pretty simple, isn't it? I don't know why I was questioning myself. This can go either way on there, and it had a circlip on either side, didn't it? But it's got to go through there first before you put the first circlip on, so like that. You're fucking in my way as per usual. Where's my pipe? Those pliers are probably the best ones. Can I do this working around you? Adjust the pliers properly. Oh, it's all slidey. Did you go on? Yes, you did. Okay, gear. Why you not want to go on? What the fuck is happening? There's no key spline on there, there can't be. Was it tough to get off? I can't, oh there we go. Tappy tappy. So you butt up against that circlip, and then actually if I put you in there first, like that, it'd be easier to get that circlip on, won't it? I just give it a bit of persuasion with I'll be alright with a screwdriver. Like that. Bit of lube on there. On the worm drive. Marvellous. And then just this side, got this little, oh fucking hell, pull it out. Got that little plate to put on, that little noggin that drops in there, like that. Couple of screws, pin through the shaft, gear on, washer, or the circlip. I'm explaining it, not doing it, because you're right in my way. Let me get that together. And then I think this crankcase is ready, isn't it? The other stuff we did was in the clutch cover, wasn't it? The water pump seal and the oil pump drive. That needs to be addressed, but I'll do that later. I can get the crankcase halves together. I've put the crank, by the way, in the Cerakote oven that was heating the bearing up, turned the oven off, and I've just put the crank in there. Such a big mass, I think it's going to take bloody hours to warm up, so I'm going to charge my camera back up because it's flat-ish, drink my brew, and then we'll do crankcase halves together assembly, put the gearbox in and stuff. We're making progress.